out the roots, he let the beats build, bitch, and we never switch. Even if I'm rich, I'll be broke like I'm Mitch. Niggas talking down, but that's headed in the wrong direction. But I knock that shit out like the boxing section, cause they can't touch what they can't see. All I gotta do is be the same me. All I gotta do is keep it cheap, always be the same me. While I'm solid, boy, they can't change me, no.
We live from the boxing section, you dusty ass niggas. What's going on, man? We live from the boxing section, man. We got a very, very, very special guest, man. We talking about a very accomplished veteran. We talking about one of the best referees in the boxing game. A great person, man. We talking about he's got stories written about him in Sports Illustrated, you know what I'm saying? ESPN, very own from the bubble, you know what I'm saying? Future Hall of Famer Robert Hoyle is in the building today, man. I appreciate him for sliding through and spend some time with him. Man, how you doing today?
Man, I'm doing fantastic, brother. How are you? I appreciate the intro.
Oh, man, it's all good, man. Good to have you on.
Oh, man, you too. Likewise.
So I did a lot of research in these couple hours, man. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, my bad. My bad for the short notice.
No, it's all good. I'm ready to go. I got a whole lot of questions for you, and we set to have a good time. So if you could let everybody know where you from and how you got started in the boxing, and then we'll go into depth.
Okay, man. Well, I'm originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Migrated this way with the Air Force to Las Vegas. And, low and slow made my way onto the athletic commission and became an inspector, a judge, which I still am today, and also a boxing referee.
So you started out as a judge.
I started out as an inspector working the corners.
Okay.
Yeah. That's why you see the stories of Mike Tyson getting the ear bite and all that kind of good stuff.
Oh, okay. So, because I got started with the box rec, where it goes from you got like 16 pages of judging. So, and then so now you judge. So you came in as an inspector. What's that job like?
Well, that's the job you see. You see the men and women working in the corners with the fighters, controlling what's happening in the corners, assisting the referee. These are the folks to help make sure, like, the paying fans get to see the fights they came to see, whether on TV or live TV. I'm sorry, whether TV or live in the arena. Their job is thankless, because they're there early, they're there late. They do the urinalysis of the fighters. They verify the hand wraps, all the safety equipment, and they let the referee know if there's any issues that they need to address before the fight, during the fight, and even after the fight.
Okay. So how has that helped you in your judging of fights, and how has that helped you in refereeing the fights?
Well, starting out as an inspector, I tell you what, it's one of those jobs where you have to learn the sport. And it also is kind of like a way of breaking you in, because one thing you can't be is a fan. You're no longer a fan of the sport because you're now working. You're responsible for the fairness, the legalities that go along with it, making sure people are following the rules. Like I said, and the importance of like hand wraps. Making sure the hands are wrapped properly. That's an important element. That's probably one of the most important parts of the fight. A boxer can lose his mouthpiece in the ring. His cup can slide down or slide up, but if his hand wraps are done wrong, that can affect the whole fight.
Okay. So you got to tell us, man, what was it like growing up in Pittsburgh? Being I know you're a Steelers fan because you ain't got no choice.
Yes,
So
sir. That's right. That's right. Growing up in Pittsburgh, man, it was I grew up in the inner city. It wasn't easy. You had to fight to survive. I know there's a lot of kids out there today that are doing the same thing right now. My heart goes out to them, and I hope they get a chance to hear your broadcast and know that, if they just keep persevering, the sun always comes up and opportunities will present themselves. And I pray that they make themselves available for that opportunity. But growing up in Pittsburgh, watching some of the people now I call friends on TV, like Richard Steele, is one of them. Joe Cortez, Robert Byrd. There's so many guys that I get a chance to work with that were back in the day. I used to just watch them on TV as officials, and now they're some of my best friends.
Right, man. That's dope, man. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, what made you retire from the Air Force and did you go straight into boxing, or did you do other things before boxing?
I actually worked boxing while I was in the Air Force. So while I was an inspector, yeah. So it was, it's a part-time job as an independent contractor. The Air Force just gave me that out. I mean, it was just an opportunity because I was here in Las Vegas, in the boxing mecca of the world, and it gave me a close-up view of all the big fights. And so, I did 21 years, and that was good enough. I decided to retire and move on and just go to that next chapter of my life.
Okay. Somebody asked, shout out to L Dub Boxing. He wanted to know what was the biggest transition from judging to reffing.
The biggest transition is, believe it or not, being that third. You literally are the third fighter in the ring as a referee. But your primary responsibility as a referee is the safety of the fighters, male or female. It doesn't matter, So that's the biggest thing. You're going from concentrating on who's winning the fight to making sure that the fight is safe and is done fairly. And more importantly, making sure that these fighters are obeying your commands. Our biggest thing is, it's not about wrestling with these guys. It's about using your words: stop, box, break, time. These are the commands we use to control the fight and to make sure the fans get a chance to see what they paid for.
What would you say is a harder job?
No disrespect to my fellow judges, but refereeing's harder. I mean, I task anybody to come down to a gym and just stand in the ring and make sure you're not in the way of the fight.
Yeah. Now, how hard is it to be at third person and not be in the way? Because a lot of times, a lot of referees are kind of like they're always in the mix. You one of them guys where the only reason why we know who you are is because you're not in the way. You know what I'm saying? You kind of let they box. You know what I'm saying? You're out the way. You break when you break every now and again. It's not like a constant like. So how is that like being able to move around the ring? Them coming this way, you got to go around this way, but making sure you can see everything happening.
Well, I tell you that links back to my boxing, career, if you will, or the time that I did trying to learn how to box and that kind of thing. But also, training, you got to train in the gyms. You got to get out there and get in there when these guys are sparring and stay active. So you can perfect what you're there to do. And that's the safety of the fighters. I appreciate the compliments, because it is the goal of the referee to stay out of it. That's their fight. People came to see them fight. They don't want to see you constantly in their action. And then, a lot of guys, they have a plan. You don't want to be interrupting their plan in the ring. So get in there, let them fight, use your commands, and get out of it.
Well, most definitely. So growing up in Pittsburgh, how were you able to escape the inner city's woes of trying to drag you into the hood and get you to do the things that would land you either dead or in jail? How did you make it out?
I got many friends that, God bless their souls. They're in the cemetery right now because that's where it took them, I remember telling my mom that I said, I got to go to college out of town or I got to join the military. And the military is where I ended up. And it gave me an escape. The thing is, sometimes you got to escape your own reality. And if you can get that, man, I tell you, it's the best opportunity. But you got to look for it and prepare yourself for it. And even once you escape, man, coming to Vegas, Vegas wasn't an easy place. People, bad people are everywhere. You know,
Right, right.
and if you don't stay aware of it, and when you come across some of these bad people, you know, male or female, you just never know when that's going to come up. You got to learn how to handle it, and sometimes those street skills will remind you. Sometimes you got to step up and just hey, uh, I'm going to do what's right here, and if I have a problem, I'm going to deal with the problem and put it to rest.
Most definitely. Um, so going to the military, how was that experience?
It was a good experience, man, because you're exposed to all kind of people, man, in the military. I mean, when I came in back in 1985, as crazy as it may seem, I came in with guys that never even met a black guy before. And that's crazy. I mean, to see somebody and you're like, wow, I'm the first black person you've ever met physically. And it's mind-boggling. And then you have to learn how to live and work with this person. And you actually end up watching them evolve, if you will, into a person that understands how to deal with other races, because they have their own world that they lived in, and now you're forced to live in this new bubble of the military where we have to work together. I got your back and you got my back. We're going to war. You got to realize we got on the same uniform and we got to fight for each other.
Most definitely. Where was your favorite place to be stationed? Where was the best place
Oh man, there's
outside
nothing
of the
better.
U.S.?
Outside the U.S. Well, I was assigned to work in Korea, and that was probably one of my best assignments in my Air Force career, other than Las Vegas. But outside the U.S., Korea was a good place. Yeah, I had good people working for me. We had a good team. We got the mission done. It was one of the best ones.
Yeah, most definitely, most definitely. Okay, so you start judging in 2000. What was that first fight that you judged? What was that like? Was it like nervous? Was it like
It's one of those things where you just learn how to walk. Because you're there watching the fight, and the scoring criteria: effective aggression, defensiveness, ring generalship. uh, you have to learn how to build your scoring philosophy. Yeah, you got to learn that scoring philosophy on how to score these fights, and making sure that matches up with the other judges and hopefully the fans. You want the fans. The fans are skewed because they're typically rooting for a certain boxer, but at the
right?
end of the day, most of the fans, they get in their gut like, okay, boxer A won this fight, and you as a judge, hopefully how I saw the fights, that's the same way the fans saw the fights.
So how hard is it to stick to your judge, like to stick to the score that you had, and not like retract um, from the scores that you have? Because like a lot of times a lot of people are, oh man, he got robbed, he got robbed, he got robbed. How do you kind of stand firm on the scores that you put down?
Well, just the one thing to make clear, every round is scored independently, and most fans don't take that into account. They're not keeping that running tally. But let's just say they are. Okay, you're keeping that running tally. Are you also using the scoring criteria effectively? Are you really paying attention to who's being damaged in the fight? Are you taking notice of who's controlling the action? These are things that are important. These guys are in there to cause, these men and women are in there to cause damage, and you can get caught up on somebody that's flashy and pop 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 pop, and just stinging somebody, or you can record the action of somebody who gets stung, and that's a big difference. Um, but as far as backing up my scores, I told many fighters, hey, a lot of times, after a while, over these 20 some years of being an official, hey, if any fighter ever disagreed with one of my scores, I'd sit down with them and say, hey, let's watch the fight together, and I'll use the scoring criteria and walk you through minute by minute of how I scored that fight, and we can talk about it.
And that'd be, man, just to be a fly on the wall, that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Um, How hard is it not to be biased?
Well, like I said, going back to being an inspector, once you realize that this is your job, I'm gonna tell you right now, Kyle, it's my name. I could be doing uh, a Mayweather fight. Mayweather's gonna be all right. At the end of the day, once I score that fight, my it's my name on whether or not I do it correctly. And the fans are going to judge you. The media is going to judge you. Everybody is going. And you see after a fight, they don't so much get mad at the fighters as they do the officials. You
Yeah.
know. So at the end of the day, you live and die by every fight. So I mean, you said like 16 pages. That basically that's how many lives I've had outside the boxing ring of scoring fights because you did good this week. Okay, your next fight you coming up. All right, you better survive again. And it's like a check. You're writing a blank check, and you got to see to it that you have the funds that make sure that check clears.
Most definitely. Now, can you be a fan of the sport and work inside? Okay.
No, because will I say that there are fans out there in the officiating world? Of course. But one of the things that some of the seasoned veterans I've worked with here in Vegas as judges, I mean, when I came on, we had Jerry Roth and Dave Moretti, Dwayne Ford, Chuck Giampa. We had some of the biggest names in boxing judging fights here in Vegas. Patricia Morris Jarman. I mean, I got lucky to sit down with these folks and work with them. And let me tell you, one thing, it's hard to judge the fight, but it's even harder when you're sitting across the ring from two of these other seasoned professionals and trying to match up with them. That was the biggest task.
Right. So what would you say so far in your refereeing career was the most exciting fight that you were a part of?
Wow. I tell you, the double. I'm gonna pick on the double knockdown fight. Here's something that Robert Byrd and myself we talked about. I talked about this with Joe Cortez and Kenny Bayless and all of them, Russell Moore. You get a double knockdown, and we go through scenarios. So here it is before a fight. We talk about, okay, hey, so what are you gonna do? Blah blah blah. You get this happening. So okay, a double knockdown. Now I've been involved, like I said, you saw I've been involved in a boxing game over 20 years, actually almost over 30 when you include my inspector time. But to see it, I've never seen it live. And for it to happen to me while I'm refereeing, it's mind blowing. But thank goodness I trained and prepared. I got my mind in tune with officiating the fight. You got to slow things down. You really go into a matrix mode. Okay, both guys fall down. Boom. Okay, now all eyes on me now. They don't care about the down fighters. They're wondering what's the referee going to do next. Now I got to properly handle this situation because one screw up from me, it affects the fight.
Right. So when that happened, what was going through your mind?
I gotta say, initially it was okay. Initially, I see one guy falling, and I'm like, okay. Then I see the other guy. It looks like he's going down too. Now, mind you, this is on two opposite sides. I mean, my eyes must have split like this because I'm watching this guy. I'm waiting for him to touch, and I see this guy, and I'm saying to myself, is he going to touch the canvas too? And then boom, they both touch at the same time, which really worked out. But I see that they both touch. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, take a deep. The first thing I remember, one of the things Bird ever said to me: take a deep breath, and go into your mechanics, and that's what you do.
Man, and so, how important is the outside person that's counting?
The timekeeper.
Yeah.
The timekeeper is your best friend. They are one of the biggest tools to you as a referee. Because they don't get enough credit. Let me first say that the timekeeper does not get enough credit because they are constantly watching the fight. They're not judging it. They're not refereeing it. But anytime any part of that boxer touches the canvas, they're ready to give that referee the down mechanic that guy went down and start counting. Is crucial because that's very helpful. I mean, he's not telling me the person's down because it's my job as the referee to establish it, but they pick up the count, and that's what establishes our 10 count for the fighter that just went down, and they're critical. And I will say it again, they do not get enough credit.
So question: what goes into a 10 count?
Okay, well, let's see if I can clarify your question. What goes into a 10 count? A person goes down. Typically, the timekeeper will pick up the count. Um, what goes into it really is that's when we start assessing whether or not we think the fighter can continue. What's he do? How did he hit how did they hit the canvas? How did they get up? What did they do once they got up? What does their face look like? What's going on with their eyes, their mechanics, their gait? Are they showing you signs that they can continue? And all the while you have to gauge this count: 4, 5, 6. You're doing this as you're counting, and if they're up before 8 and everything, then you're going to stop your count because you have a mandatory 8. But at the last fight I was at, I heard people talking about, give them a standing 8 count. There is no standing 8 count. We don't do that anymore. If you could take a knee. If the fight has to be stopped for a standing 8 count, the fight's just going to be stopped. Okay. As a pro.
Now, how do you know when to stop a fight?
Well, I tell you, one of the things that I've learned in boxing is the gut response. And you as a fan too, when you sit in there watching a fight and you see a guy or woman taking a lot of damage, to where I tell them, stay engaged. As soon as their hands drop and then they disengage on that fight and they're just taking unnecessary damage, and you kind of clue them in like, hey, you need to show me something to show me that you're willing and capable to continue, then I can let you continue. But if you don't re-engage and you just start catching, first of all, I tell them their chief second is going to stop the fight because that's their job. Their job is because they've been training with this fighter. They know that fighter better than me. They know their weaknesses. They know all the things that go into that's gone into the training with that fighter. And hopefully they have some longevity to where they can assess. But a lot of times the chief second will not do it. So like I said, taking into response, and I know I stretched this out a little bit, but it's really about the safety of we have to save these guys from themselves and from their opponent. We want these men and women to be able to live. This is their bread and butter. And I realize that they want to win every fight, but a lot of times you're going to be matched up with somebody that's too much, and you just get the shorter end of the sword. Hopefully you live to fight another day, but right now safety is the biggest concern.
I was going to ask you that question, because how important is it to look at the corner and say, hey, if you don't do it, if you don't stop it, I'm gonna stop it. And then
let me tell you what, I do that in the dressing room. When I'm in the dressing room and I give them my instructions, and I go through that about staying engaged in the fight, and I say, this is your chief second. Okay, chief second Kyle. When I step in and I tell this guy to show me something and he continues to catch this damage, it's your job to stop the fight. And I get him to acknowledge that in front of his fighter. And the fighter hears him. And once we get an agreement, and I'll let him know, if he doesn't do their job, then I will.
Man. And have you ever stopped a fight and the fighter or the corner got upset with you, but you was like, dude, I had to do it?
First of all, they got to do their job. Like I said, no fighter wants to lose, and they certainly don't want to be stopped by the referee to continue. A cornerman typically is going to be the biggest cheerleader for their fighter. That's their job, But sometimes in their gut, which I've had, chief seconds, they may yell at ringside, but after the fight, they're thanking you for saving their fighter's life, because they see it as well, and a lot of times you've seen in some big fights, sometimes the chief second it throws in the towel and the fighters lose their mind. Like, what are you doing? I can still go. Everybody, all 18,000 people in that arena saw that you had enough. And this chief second had the guts to really call that fight.
Most definitely. Most definitely. Tell me about the bubble, man. Tell me about that experience, because you were one of the
man. The bubble was awesome, man. And I tell you what, the boxing bubble made it possible for the sports world to get their sports back. They had to figure out how to isolate the officials and the players, so they can be tested to make sure that they can safely participate in the sport that everybody loves, whether it's boxing, football, baseball, basketball, whatever, and get that right back out to the public to try to get the world back to normal. It wasn't a political thing. It was just about, okay, how can we get this going back, get this back going again? So, it was an amazing experience because, boxing is a small family, whether with the officials, with the fighters, with the camps, it's a small family, yes, there are lines of professionalism that have to be maintained, but the bubble was something that we may never see that experience again. That was something that, in my lifetime, and you may not ever. I pray you don't see another pandemic come through that causes people to have to, buckle down again, because I tell you, it was tough on a lot of people.
I think now people know how to do it now, so I think it'd be a whole lot easier though. What was that phone call like? Saying like, "Hey man, we need you in this bubble."
Well, I tell you, the biggest thing is when you're called to go into the bubble is the test. You got to go in there, and you might go in there and you got a little scratch in your throat. You're like, "Uh-oh, is this it?" But you go in, you get tested the night before. You go, and then you go to a room and try to get some sleep. Man, you can't sleep when you know that you have a test pending on whether or not you got this bug that's going around. And then, around 5 o'clock in the morning, you hear the bangings on the doors of the people that were positive. And, they knock on one door and it sounds like it's your door. Yeah. It's the worst feeling. And it's not until they say, okay, you can go to breakfast, that you could go to sleep, because that's it.
Man, so 5 in the morning, just,
oh man, let's go. Yeah.
Man, oh man. So what was I know you had one scare. What was the biggest scare in the bubble where you thought like, oh shit, I'm going home?
Well, you're in these hotels and casinos, and the air conditioner is insane. And the first thing it does is make you want to cough, and you get a little scratch in your throat, and you think it's it. You think that's it. You think you're going to pop positive. And then the other thing you worry about too, okay, if I pop positive, how am I going to recover? You start thinking of all the worst case scenarios, and then you worry, are they going to have me back because I was positive,
Right.
Yeah, because there's a lot of testing.
How was it being able to be a part of one of the biggest magazines probably in the history of our country?
Man, you talking about an accident? It was winning the lottery, man. I just happened to be refereeing in a fight of a journalist, and I apologize to not remember his name, from Sports Illustrated, but he was doing an article that he saw in a fighter that came over from Cuba. And he saw me officiating the fight with my mask on, and he took it upon himself and said, hey, I'm going to reach out to him and see if I can interview him about working with the mask on. And I'll tell you right now, the mask did not hinder my ability to do the fight. You still, they can still hear my commands. I still maintain control. That was the best part about it. But this particular sports writer saw that I was able to manage the fight with the mask on, and he had some questions, And kudos to him that he ended up writing an amazing article that won him the cover of Sports Illustrated, the electronic version. That was amazing.
Man, that's dope, man.
Yeah.
That's super dope.
I mean, come on. I mean, Kyle, I mean, like right now, I mean, if this the picture of you right now, somebody would plaster it on the cover of Sports Illustrated, you really don't. I'll be honest with you, I still to this day don't know how powerful that was. I mean, I'm forever grateful. It's mind blowing, but it hasn't really hit me yet.
Man, when you Google your name,
yeah, no,
you know what I mean? It goes bang. That's okay.
Yeah.
That's why I used it, because I'm like, man, this is the biggest. I can find a picture, you know what I'm saying, and then crop it out. I'm like, man, this is the biggest deal, man. You know what I'm saying? As a sports fan.
As a sports fan, even as an athlete. I mean, most athletes never get to cover Sports Illustrated.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So outside of boxing, we'll switch gears for a second. We'll go back to boxing in a little bit. Outside of boxing, what's your favorite sports?
My favorite sport, man, I used to officiate football. And like I said, once you start officiating, you lose the fan part, man, because all you see is what goes into the game, all the elements and what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong. Man, I tell you, I might have to say synchronized swimming. Because like I said, everything else is kind of tainted for me. I support my Steelers, my Pirates, my Penguins. But when it comes down to it, when I'm watching baseball, I'm looking for the strike zone, or was he out? Or when it comes to hockey, was he icing the puck? All these crazy things, and then football, all the mechanics that go into that. Was he offside? Was not enough men on the line? Too many men on the field? All these things, man. It just blows your mind.
So, what all sports have you been involved with as far as officiating?
Basically, for me, besides boxing, football, and lacrosse, those are two of the ones that I've worked with. And lacrosse is a whole nother animal too. You see these young men and women run up and down the field with sticks and hitting each other upside the head, which is a foul. It's mind blowing. And I tell you, I don't think that sport gets enough credit, because that's a very physical sport.
So how'd you get into refereeing lacrosse?
A good buddy of mine, Steve Esposito, timekeeper, one of our timekeepers you see ringside. He's always been into it. I mean, a big official for lacrosse back east, where I think it's bigger back east than it is out here. But one day he called me up. He goes, because he and I did football together. He says, "Hey, I need some help. Can you come out and help me officiate lacrosse?" And we went over the rules and some of the mechanics and all that. And once we did that, it made it a little clearer for me. Now I don't do it now. I don't move like that, like I did as a young man. But running up and down the sideline, that's a whole nother world.
So, lacrosse and football, two of the most talking like head-on collision type sports.
Man, like Jim Brown used to play lacrosse. They said he was one of the best players. I didn't even know that.
Oh yeah. They said, man, he was a beast.
Yeah, I can't even imagine a big guy like him run up and down. Man, that must have been. I tell you, I would love to be able to rewatch some of his games as a lacrosse player. It must have been insane. And
then you got boxing. So I mean, every physical sport you could think of, you've been a part of.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's a wonderful thing. What about you? You're a football fan?
Man, I'm a Niner fan, man.
Oh man, you can't beat that. Yeah. Niners are a force to be reckoned with, man. They almost knocked my Steelers off the pedestal, and then Tom Brady came along and took care of that.
And then y'all got the damn man, but when y'all got Ben Roethlisberger, man, that kind of just
changed everything.
And then who was it? Was it Holmes that caught the ball with the tip of his toe?
Just the tip. That was amazing. Yeah, but that's what it comes down to sometimes, and it's just those little special moments, man.
Man, being an official, you really can't talk about certain boxers, right? It's like, because I know it's one of the things where if you If you say, "Oh man, I like this boxer or this or that," it kind of hinders the next job, right?
Well, Kyle, let me be honest. I mean, like I said, I'm not a fan. I mean, I like the sport, but it's my job.
Right.
And it's like for them, it's their job. They're there to do their job, and they entrust in me that I'll be impartial. And for the amount of years I've done it, that's all. That's all I can see it. I'm telling you, when I got to go to work, basically I grab my bag and I'm going to work. And I see these guys, these men and women, and like I said, this is their livelihood. I mean, this is something that some people take for granted, but these people are putting their lives on the line for their entertainment. That's really what it comes down to. And so I have to do my part. I got to do my part to make sure that they're as safe as possible, but also at the same time, I remain impartial and allow them to do what they do. I mean, it doesn't matter who's in the ring, because one thing I will tell you is you can be a fan all you want, but you never know who's getting in that ring when it's time, when that bell rings.
How are you able to turn the switch off? Like, how were you able to just say, "All right, it's work, no longer a fan"? How did you manifest that? Because for me, man, I'm such a fanatic, man, and a nut. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't just be like, when I'm watching a fight, it's hard for me to be unbiased. So how are you able to say, "All right, separate the two, compartmentalize"?
Well, the first thing I will say is training. Training is the most important part. And then after that, it's just, you got to take it seriously. Like I said, your name is on the line. When you're assigned to fight, it's your name. It's no one else. No one else can cover for you. It's your name. So if you blow it, it's a wrap. It's hard to come. Fighters can come back from a loss, but as an official, it's tough. You have to maintain it every single fight.
Okay. Are you out? You just do Vegas, or do you go outside of Vegas to referee?
Oh, God, I've done fights on 6 out of the 7 continents.
What would you say was your favorite place to visit?
Well, I'll tell you, it was mind blowing to do a fight in Tasmania. If you know where Tasmania is down below Australia, and to do a fight on a little island way out there in the Arctic Ocean, you can see Antarctica off in the distance. It just goes to show that boxing can occur anywhere. I've done a fight on the beaches of the Cayman Islands. That's only for honeymooners, and we're doing fights on the beach. So that's just a couple, or a fight in Monte Carlo. It's incredible.
What's the phone calls like? Or, you know what I mean? What's the phone call of being booked as a referee? Is it like?
It's exciting. It truly is exciting because, I don't know how many hundreds or thousands of officials are out there, but just to be one of the 4 that are assigned to the fight, the 3 judges or the referee, it's the hugest compliment and reward to you as an official to be recognized by an organization to assign you that fight, that they trust you, that you're going to do the job and do the job right.
Yeah, man. Because I really enjoy refereeing, man. Because
Thank you.
You could tell like there's no bias as it pertains to what you're doing, because you basically it's always fair right down the middle, like. And a lot of times, man, people get like a lot of different chances. Right. You tell them straight up, like, "Hey, you know what I'm saying? Yo, you got some of the cleanest fights, even the double knockdown. Even when that went down, it was still like clear. It was like, so when they both, so like when you get one of those, right, and it's a double knockdown, like a double knockout, what is it considered, a draw or what?
Oh, if it's a double knockout?
Yeah.
Oh, that's basically a draw. Yeah, no one wins. Yeah, you count them both out, it's over. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Man.
That's a KO.
Do you think if you could change anything as it pertains to boxing, what would you change?
I would make sure that we're building a legacy of strong officials to keep coming up and keep replacing as we all get older. We got to come up with a succession plan to keep, just like with boxers. I mean, uh, there's going to be there's going to keep being more and more exciting fighters, creating enormous purse amounts. But the thing is, with the officials, and that's the part I can focus on for me, is creating a legacy of good, solid officials that will maintain the sport, maintain the integrity of the sport, and that will keep it going healthy. It's like what you gave me, the wonderful compliment of being fair in the ring. You see the low blows just like I do, and I don't care who it is. I mean, $1 billion fighter A versus the $1,000 fighter B. If fighter A hits fighter B low, it's a low blow. It doesn't matter how popular you are. You got to still keep them up. There's still a scoring zone.
How far is discretion and while you refereeing?
How far is discretion? Let me have you elaborate on your question just a little bit.
So as far as somebody spit the mouthpiece out to get some extra time, or you know what I mean, or if they don't get hit low for real, they say low blow, low blow.
Yeah. Well, let me. I'm going to make a comment on the low blow thing. The fighter, the protective harness, does its job. Now, have fighters gotten hit low? I mean, low being that where that harness isn't covering. Yeah, a lot of them do, and a lot of them do have the power to cause damage to you through that harness. But the ones that flirt around the top part of the abdomen, those are kind of more body shots. But again, there is a line that runs through your navel that defines whether that punch was right below your navel, that defines whether or not that was a fair shot or a low blow. Now, if a fighter wants to spit out their mouthpiece and get some more time, that's a foul. That's a foul. And if you think you're going to use that to your advantage to get an advantage over someone, because you're taking an unfair advantage away from somebody who is doing their job, that's a foul. So when it comes to discretion, you know what? All I can tell you is keep it clean.
Yeah, because I seen a referee recently stop the fight when the dude spit the mouthpiece out again. They just waved it off, like, all right, we're done here for the night.
Right? Yeah. Because a lot of fighters don't know how to get out of the fight. I mean, I've had fighters tell me I had enough. That's it. Okay, I got you. Fight's over. But then you have fighters that just don't know. They're looking for a way. Boxing is a tough business. I tell you, having somebody hit you upside your head and you trying to focus and focus a way of retaliating effectively, that's a tough business to be in. I mean, you're walking around concussed for 6, 7, 8 rounds, and people expect you to be able to continue and fight effectively.
Man, most definitely, man. Well, I'm not gonna keep you too much longer. I got about 2 more questions for you.
Okay.
And, I appreciate you, man, on a quick turnaround, man, because man, I was like, I'm gonna have to wait till next week, but man, I'm glad you got me in today, man.
Yeah, no, I didn't want. I hate to turn down a good opportunity, and and you know how life is, man. Hey, I'm gonna tell you this. I'm glad to be here today, man. I may not be here next week, so I didn't want to miss out on this. This will live on forever.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you.
And I appreciate you.
Books. Would you ever write one?
Man, I'm flattered that you would even say that. I mean, yeah, I'm reading one of my mentors. Matter of fact, I was going to break it out for you, but Mark Ratner, I'm reading his book, and I've had the fortunate experience of working for him and to see where he is today. What a life! What a life! And he used to be a footballer. He's the one that got me into officiating football, as well as what I do in boxing. So I'm reading his book, and so you know, if I ever achieved that level of interest that people would want to read my story, well, he laid a nice blueprint for me to model my life after.
Most definitely, most definitely. And what was the last question that I had? I wanted to touch on. It was dang, I just had it in my head. Jesus.
Yeah, that happens to me too.
Golly, because it was a good one too. So, because it was a question I had asked, but I didn't get to ask like in depth.
Okay.
Damn. I forgot what it was, man. Jeez,
well, I'm looking at some of those fight posters you have up on the wall. You definitely are a fight fan. You got some good ones up there.
Man, I lead nut, man.
Yeah, bro, the greatest ever.
Yeah, my dad, man, you know, he's the reason how I even got into boxing, man. I sit up, watch boxing with him, the Niners, basketball, and we would just watch sports all day, man. That's like the one thing we did together was sports. Well,
so, do yourself a favor and make it down to Louisville and go to his museum. It's amazing.
I got to, man. That's one of them bucket list things, man, where I got to get down there for that.
It's a great thing.
Damn, I'm hella mad I forgot what that question was, man. Because you know, when you have a question, but you like, all right, I'm gonna hold it. But I gotta like listen to what you're saying. So it's like I'm trying to listen and keep the question still.
It's tough, brother. I know.
Yeah. Damn. But man, I'm looking forward, man, to seeing you again, man. Hopefully you on that the October 22nd card out in Vegas on ESPN, because I'll be at that fight.
Okay, well, I look forward to it, man. Me too. I hope so.
Man, absolutely, man. Let everybody know where they can follow you at, if Facebook, Instagram, anything like that.
Well, you know, I hate to say it, this is boring, but you know, as an official, I don't really do any of the social media because, again, I want to stay unbiased, and you know, not to say that any of my fellow officials that are online are biased or whatever, because that's not the case. I just don't do it because it's a lot easier to maintain my life by not doing it than chasing my tail. That's all.
Most definitely, man. I appreciate you for coming on, man. We thank you, man. The boxing community thanks you, man, for being a great referee, man, and a better person.
Thank you.
And man, this is great, man. This is one of my favorite interviews, man. I can't wait to rewatch it, chop it, and post little clips up, man. It's an amazing thing, man. Enjoy the rest of your day, and man, we'll see you soon.
Hey, thank you for what you do. You're keeping boxing alive.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Most definitely.
Thank you, brother.
All right. So, man, we appreciate Rob coming through, man. Taking time out of his busy schedule to show us some love. Listen, man, we back again. 6 o'clock will be Wire Wednesdays. We're gonna go over the Wire, watch the Wire, talk about the Wire, and things like that. Rob, don't go anywhere. I'm gonna end this, but I want to talk to you off wax if you're still here. Yes, Wire Wednesday, man. We're gonna talk about the Wire and things like that. And of course, y'all know the late show, 10 o'clock. We'll be back next week, man. It's gonna be a busy week, so hopefully everything can come together like we need it to. And with that, man, I appreciate everybody coming on, checking us out today, man. I appreciate y'all 100%. And with that, man, we out of this piece.
At the roots, he let the beats build, bitch, and we never switch. Even if I'm rich, I'll be broke like I'm Mitch. Niggas talking down, but that's headed in the wrong direction. But I knock that shit out like the boxing section, cause they can't touch what they can't see. All I gotta do is be the same me. All I gotta do is keep it G, always be the same me. While I'm solid, boy, they can't change me. No.